Hello, this is Kent. Hey, just want to go over a couple of things on this horse trailer with you. You probably already know this stuff, but some of the stuff I had to learn. One thing in particular was taking off the hubcaps, which I figured was an easy snap-on, snap-off deal, but it's not. They don't snap on. I'm leaving you this little tool that you'll use to take the hubcaps off, and I'll show you how it works. There's two lug nuts on the tire that have little notches on them. There's one there, see that? And then there's one here. They're just opposite of each other. These two nuts will actually screw off using this tool. The rest of them are solid and stay on, so don't try to twist those off, or you might break them off or you'll damage them. Only try to twist off these two that have the notches on them. If you just use this tool, they should come right off. Again, here's the little notch. See that little notch in them? It also has some lettering, but just look for the ones with the little notch on them. After you take those two off, the rest of this will just slip off like that. Here's your cover. And then this piece here will slip off as well. Get you to your tire. Now, the two nuts that were screwed on have these two adapters on them that need to come off, and you can use this same tool. Inside there's a little notch. You can use that just to take these off. They're just these little cover things here. There's two of those. Take those off, and then that'll get you right where you could take the tire on and off. So I'm just gonna reverse that process to put it back together. Put these two doohickeys back on. Get them on nice and tight. Put your cover back on. Make sure your valve is exposed so that you can put some air in it if you need to. And then just screw these things back on. Oops, I'm sorry, put this on first. And screw these things back on. And these don't have to just be cinched on extremely tight, but you want them tight enough so they won't come loose. You don't want to lose your chrome piece going down the road. So that's how you take your tires off, using this tool, which I'll put in the trailer for you. Just a quick walk around on the trailer. Here's your two water connections. If you want to fill up your internal tank, use that cap there, just run a hose down in there and you can fill that up. I recommend putting about half a cup of bleach in here once a year, and that'll keep your tank fresh. If you have water at your campsite, you can hook the hose directly to here. If you use this, I'm going to leave this with you. This is a pressure reducer. Just screw this into here and then screw your hose onto here. This will keep some of these campsites have really strong water pressure, and this will keep your pressure going into your trailer at the right well, keep it at the right pressure so it doesn't damage any of your fixtures inside. Here's your plug for your electrical. It's a 30 amp plug. Here's your hot water tank here. I'll go over that later. All your doors and windows are all keyed with the same key for your trailer. Same with your storage doors. They're all keyed the same. Here's your gas cap for your generator. I recommend I always use the Stabil Marine Formula gas stabilizer. And I try not to keep too much gas in that tank unless I'm going to use the generator a lot. Honestly, I haven't used the generator that much, but I try to run it once a month for a couple of hours under load with the air conditioner or the fridge running, just to keep it fresh. And then about every 50 hours, I change out the spark plug and change out the oil. And I'll show you what oil I use for it. It's real easy to do. Anyway, here we are on the other side of the trailer. Your awning, your switch for your awning is right here. You just hold it in, bring it out. Here it is coming out. And when you get all the way out, you just let off on the button. And there it is. And then to roll it back in, you just hold down on the other button. And it'll come in. Really, I haven't used the awning much. And when it rolls in kind of slow, but it's always rolled in slow. I think that's just the way the motor's set up. Just let it come all the way in, and then you let off on the button. That's it. Underneath here is your hydraulic jack and your propane tanks. The valve on the propane tank is set up to wherever this lever here is pointing, right now it's pointing to this tank. Both these tanks are full. So right now it'll take from this tank until this tank is empty, and when this one gets empty, it will automatically switch and pull from this one. There's nothing you need to do. But if you end up taking this one off to get it refilled, what I usually do is I'll flip this switch over to this one, and that way it'll run this one till it's empty, and it'll switch back to this one. Got a little gauge here that tells you G is full. I don't know what, there's a red that it'll show if the tank is empty. Here's your battery compartment here with your batteries and fuses. And then here's your switch on the side that if you want to turn off the power to the trailer, you turn it off. Right there, that's off. And that's on. Here's your keys. This key here will operate all the locks on your trailer, doors and windows. This one here does the lock on the battery compartment, which I've never locked, and then this little brown one does the hydraulic jack. And here's your switch for your jack. You just put the key in it and turn it, and you can raise or lower the jack. That's about it on the outside. Next will be the inside. Okay, here we are inside the trailer. Just a few things I want to point out to you. First of all, there's a couple things I check every time before I head out, just to make sure everything stays in place. First thing is the shower door here. There's a latch right here where you can open it. Just make sure this latch is locked. Make sure these snaps are snapped so that your pocket door won't come sliding out. push in on both your freezer and your fridge doors just to make sure there's a little lever here that latches it, but make sure you'll hear a pop when it's locked, and that way these won't open unless you push it on this lever. And then just make sure your TV, if you've pulled it out, make sure it's locked in place so that it doesn't swing out. That's really about all I do. Okay, I'm up on top of the trailer now. I'm going to show you the generator. This is the battery that runs it. I just replaced it. It was either last year or the year before last, so it should be good to go, but it's real easy. Change out if you need to change it. It charges with the rest of the batteries when they charge. And there's your generator. There's two levers that will lock the cover on here. And there's one over here on this other side. And then there's your generator here. Can't really see what's going on, but there's two levers here. We'll unlock it, unlock the cover. There's your oil, where you refill the oil, and then your spark plug is right here. And if you reach up underneath here, there's a drain plug. So just drain it from down here. It takes a little more than a quart, but not quite 2 quarts. Drain it down there, and then just pour your new oil in here and change your spark plug. You'll do that every 50 hours. This thing will not fail you. So anyway, that's the generator. Pretty simple. This is the oil I use for the generator. You don't have to use this exact oil, but it's worked good for me. And like I said, try to run your generator once a month for a couple hours just to get it warm and the oil circulated, and run it under load if you can. Turn on the air conditioning or your fridge or some lights or whatever, you don't have to do that, but it helps. And then just keep your gas fresh with that stable marine grade stabilizer, and you should be good to go on the generator. Thanks. Okay, we're inside the trailer now. Just a few things over here, down in these cabinets here. This cabinet here has your water pump down here on the bottom, and then this cabinet here has your alternator, or your power inverter. And I'll go over later, but this thing has two 15-amp fuses, and I got a bag of those fuses here that I'll leave with the trailer. I'll say probably 2 or 3 times over the past 5 years I've lost power to my trailer with it plugged in, and it'll run off battery until the battery gets low, and then it's not charging the battery and you're not getting constant power. And the problem has always been these two 15-amp fuses that are in this inverter, and they're over here on the right side. They're very hard to get to without pulling this thing out, but if you there's 2 screws on the top and 2 screws on the bottom that are holding it on this wall. If you take the 2 screws off on the top, it'll come out enough to where you can pull those fuses out and replace them. The fuses are kind of loose going into the holder, so if you'll just take the prongs on the fuses and bend one way and bend one the other way just slightly, they'll go in there real super tight, and they'll work for you. But again, if you're having power trouble with the trailer, this is the first thing I would check, and I guarantee that's probably the problem. It's those two 15-amp fuses. For whatever reason, some campsites I guess have surges and they pop those fuses. Up here in this cabinet, here's your breaker box here. Put that back on. And then here's your generator start, and there's your turn on the water pump here. and turn on your water heater there. Here's your gauges. This tells you your battery power, how much water's in your fresh tank, how much water's in your black tank, and how much water's in your gray tank. To start the generator, and if it hadn't run for a while, you'll probably have to do this twice. Hold down where it says stop until the light comes on. That's charging the generator, and then push up on the up button and that'll start it. And again, if it's cold, you'll probably have to do this twice. Don't hold the start button down for more than 5 seconds or so, because you don't want to damage the starter up there. So anyway, if you just hold this down until the light comes on, right there, and then push on the start up here, it'll try to start. Okay, and there it started. Right now it's got 370 hours. I think that's what it says, yeah. But again, most of that is just me running it every month for a couple hours. Sometimes I forget and it'll sit out here and run for 5 or 6, but it's amazingly, if you fill it up with gas, it'll go for, I've never done it, but I bet you it would run for a week on a tank of gas. It doesn't use much gas at all. It takes a second for it to kick in. It just did. So now everything's powered up from the generator. And then to turn it off, you just hold on the stop button down and it'll stop it. Your central heat is down here. Your bed here, this couch folds out to a bed. If you lift up on it, you can see here's your, gotta have those in there. Here's your water storage tank, and here's your duct for your heater. Try not to put anything in here for storage. I have put a blanket in here and it's worked fine, but if you put anything in here that sits down on these duct hoses, if that heater senses there's any kind of blockage with those hoses, it won't run. So keep everything off that duct right there. And then over here on this side, if you reach down here, there's a pull-out lever that you can drain this tank if you want to. Okay. I just put a cup of bleach in it every year in the water. I don't ever use this water for drinking anyway. I just use it for sinks and showers and toilets, and then I usually bring bottled water. Here is the fridge. It's really easy. The controllers on the fridge. It'll work on your power or your gas, depending on which one's available. If you're plugged into power, it'll run off power. If you're not plugged into power, it'll automatically switch to gas. All you gotta do is turn it on, and then it will. Right now, I don't have any power plugged up. I'm just running off the battery, so it'll eventually turn on the gas and kick on. There it goes. If you ever show it and it's got this check light here lit up, that just means that it's got confused on whether to use AC or gas. It's happened maybe 3 or 4 times for me. All you gotta do is power it down and then power it back up, and it'll reset itself. In the bathroom, this is your controller for your air vent. One thing I learned on this one, when this is opening it, and then you can turn it on here. One thing I noticed on this is if you close it all the way, where it's closed tight, and leave it like this, over time the lid will get stuck and it won't want to open. So what I always do is I just open it just a crack and just leave it like that, and that way it'll always open and close, and it'll also, water won't get in if you just leave it barely cracked. The plastic piece on top, I replaced it last year. It just got kind of old, and in the sun it kind of gets brittle and it eventually cracked. I'll send you the part number for that, but again, this one we just replaced last year, so it should be good. This little device down here is the CO2 detector. I just replaced it last year. It has a lifespan of about, I think, 3 to 4 years. It'll eventually start going bad, and when it does, it'll start beeping. And so when you notice it, when it beeps, you can hit this button and it'll turn it off. But When it's beeping, that's telling you that it's time to be replaced. So you'll need to just, I ordered one off Amazon, and it's real easy install, but that'll need to be replaced about every 4 or 5 years, but I just replaced it last year, so you should be good on that. Okay, here's a couple of pointers I got for here's your thermostat. You pretty much use this button here and it'll toggle between fan, cool, furnace, heat strip, and then on off. It's usually stayed in the off position. That's fan, cool, furnace, heat strip, and off. This is where it usually stays when you're not using it. The fan is the air conditioner. The cool is the air conditioner. The furnace is the gas heater, which is down here. And then your heat strip is also your air conditioning. Never use the heat strip. We always use the furnace. It seems to be the best heat. So I couldn't give you any tips on the heat strip, but I will say the fan has 3 settings. If you go to fan, it's got a low, high, and auto. Low means it runs all the time, and then the compressor kicks on when it wants to cool. High means it stays on high all the time, and the compressor comes on and off as needed. And then auto means that the fan itself does not run unless the compressor needs to run, and then it'll all kick off at the same time. So I usually set this to low, and then on your cool you can set your thermostat to whatever you want it, and then leave it here for your air conditioning to work. What I have found, I'm gonna leave it off now because I don't have power to it, but what I've found is it's better to run your fan on low, because if you run it on high, it's pretty loud. And if you run it on auto, during the night it kicks on and off as needed, which it bugged me because it always woke me up when the fan came on and then it would shut off and then it would turn on again and turn off all night long, trying to keep the trailer cool. I found if you just keep the fan on low, it's not a real loud sound and it's continuous. It's like running a ceiling fan, and then it'll just be a continuous sound of your fan on low, and then when the air conditioner, the compressor will kick on and off and you won't notice the difference. And I find that that's the best way to run that, especially at night when you're sleeping. During the day, if you ever put it on high to get it cooled down quick, we've done that before, but honestly, we've probably only used the air conditioner 5 or 6 times. We don't usually trail ride a lot in the summer. It's too hot. We do most of our trail riding in the winter, in the fall, in the spring, and usually we're just running the heater. So there's been a few times that we've run the air conditioner, but it really hadn't been run much. So anyway, that's it on the thermostat.